Hello everyone, Dr. Polaris here. During the late Cretaceous, a new group of marine reptiles suddenly found themselves in the ascendant. These were the Mosasaurids, a lineage of large aquatic lizards that first appeared by around 94 million years ago, developing from smaller semi-aquatic ancestors that strongly resembled and were probably close relatives of modern monitor lizards. The emergence of Mosasauridae coincided with the extinction of the last ichthyosaurs during the climatic-driven Cenomanian-Turonian extinction event, with the big-headed predatory pliosaurs vanishing soon after, roughly 89 million years ago. These two groups of marine reptiles had dominated oceanic top-order carnivore niches for an incredibly long time, stretching back into the early Triassic in the case of the ichthyosaurs, and the late Triassic for the pliosaurs. With these potential competitors out of the way, Mosasaurids rapidly expanded in size, moving into the vacated niches. The first lineage to produce truly large forms were the diverse and successful members of Rossellosaurina, with the most massive species being found within the subfamily Tylosaurinae, which developed into the top-order carnivores among mosasaurids between the Santonian and Campanian stages of the late Cretaceous. In general, these were long-bodied, long-tailed predatory lizards, with sturdy conical teeth, elongated premaxillae, and extensions of the dentaries that lack teeth at the very end of the jaws, as was typically the case in other mosasaurid genera. This was initially suspected to have been an adaptation for ramming into prey, although later studies have disproven this, finding that the jaw tips would have been highly sensitive and likely contained electroreceptive organs for detecting prey instead. Tylosaurians were also lightly built, having greatly reduced the weight of their bodies and possessing relatively small pectoral and pelvic girdles, as well as fore and hind limbs. Their bones were highly cancellous, and may have been dense with fat cells during life, adding to their buoyancy. These traits suggest that Tylosaurians were probably ambush predators, lunging out at other marine animals after a brief chase, then ripping them apart with their stout conical teeth. The type genus for this subfamily was, of course, Tylosaurus itself, which is a very long-lasting mosasaur, first appearing in the fossil record circa 92 million years ago during the Turonian, and persisting all the way up to the end of the Maastrichtian circa 66 million years ago. Native primarily to the North Atlantic Ocean, with fossils having been recovered from North America, Europe and Africa, Tylosaurus produced up to 9 species. The most basal of these was T. nepaolicus, which lived during the late Coniacian and early Santonian in what is now Kansas, but was then part of the Western Interior Seaway. This was one of the smaller Tylosaurus species, with average lengths for the animal being in the region of 17 feet or 5.1 metres long. It may have been the direct ancestor of the far more numerous T. proriger, which is a younger species that was native to the same region. This was the first member of the genus to be scientifically described all the way back in 1869. Being one of the many finds in the long and storied career of Edward Drinker Cope. The species name means prow-bearing, which refers to the original specimen's prow-like elongated rostrum. This animal measured about 21 feet long, although some far larger specimens were once assigned to T. proriger, including a massive individual that was uncovered in 1911 by a group from the University of Kansas led by C.D. Bunker, who came across the remains of a huge mosasaur eroding from the upper Smoky Hill Chalk or lower Pierre Shale formation of western Kansas. The skull itself was almost 6 feet in length. This specimen, formerly known as KUVP 5033 and nicknamed Bunker, was estimated to have measured between 39 and 52 feet or 12 to 15.8 metres long, being the largest example of T. proriger ever found. Additionally, some very large Tylosaurus individuals from Texas were also folded into T. proriger, including a specimen informally known as the Heath mosasaur, which was discovered in 1979. However, in 2026, Zietlow, Polsin and Tykowski described the species Tylosaurus rex, based on numerous more or less complete fossil specimens discovered in the fossil record of Texas and Kansas, which had previously been assigned to T. proriger. The authors thought the name T. rex appropriate due to the animal's massive skull, large serrated teeth, and the fact that it is currently the most massive mosasaurid so far known, with the average body length for the species found to be 13.2 metres or 43 feet. Tylosaurus rex ranged from the early to middle Campanian, first evolving in the Lone Star state, because everything is always bigger in Texas. In all, 11 specimens have been referred to this newly identified species, including the so-called Heath mosasaur, which serves as the diagnostic type, in addition to the aforementioned Bunker specimen from Kansas. Another Tylosaurus rex individual held in the collections of the Perot Museum in Dallas, referred to as the Black Knight, gives us some idea about social interactions in this species, with the specimen missing the top of the snout and having a fractured lower jaw. These devastating injuries could only have been inflicted by another, even larger Tylosaurus rex, suggesting that aggressive face biting occurred in this species, much like in the Tyrannosaurid T-Rex. Interestingly, the 2026 study also found that Tylosaurus was probably not a genuine genus, but instead represents a grade within the Tylosaurinae subfamily, being more basal than the genera Hanosaurus and Taniwhasaurus. In addition, certain aspects of the life appearance and habits of Tylosaurus rex can be inferred from information gained from other species in the genus. Where it was once assumed that mosasaurs swam in an undulating, snake-like fashion, more recent studies have shown that these marine lizards were tail-powered swimmers with relatively stiff upper bodies, possessing tail flukes that were similar in shape to those of modern sharks. Younger individuals seem to have had stiffer dorsal and cervical vertebrae in comparison to fully grown adults, indicating faster swimming speeds to aid in catching smaller, more agile prey, as well as for avoiding predators. All Tylosaurus species had light builds when compared to other mosasaurs, and were not especially fast swimmers, strongly indicating that these animals were ambush predators, hunting a wide variety of prey types. With preserved stomach content recovered from a T. proriger specimen, including a smaller 2-metre-long mosasaur, the human-sized diving ornithurine Hesperornis, an indeterminate shark, and the ray-finned fish genus Bananogmius. Other potential targets for T-Rex in particular would have included all smaller mosasaurs, ammonites, big protostegid turtles, large cephalopods such as Tusoteuthis, as well as predatory fish like Xiphactinus. In terms of habitat preference, the older and smaller Tylosaurus species were probably more limited to shallower coastal waters, while the younger and more massive forms like T. proriger and T. rex expanded into deeper offshore environments. Microscopic analysis of scales by Lindgren et al. Detected high traces of the pigment eumelanin, indicative of a dark coloration similar to the leatherback sea turtle in life. This may have been complemented with countershading, a trait present in many aquatic animals, though the distribution of dark and light pigments in the species remains unknown. A dark coloured form would have provided several evolutionary advantages, with a dark coloration increasing absorption of heat, allowing the animals to maintain elevated body temperatures in colder environments, with mosasaurids like Tylosaurus giving birth to live young and possessing endothermic metabolisms. Aside from the Argentine tegu, which is partially endothermic, this is a unique feature among squamates, and gave mosasaurs the ability to live in the relatively cold waters of the north and south polar regions. For Tylosaurus in particular, an oxygen isotope analysis of 11 specimens has shown that this genus possessed average body temperatures of 34.3 degrees Celsius or 93.7 degrees Fahrenheit, which was found to be notably higher than that of the contemporary orlopiform fish Enchodus and the turtle Toxochelis. Tylosaurus rex thrived during the early and middle Campanian before subsequently going extinct, although remains attributed to the genus more broadly persist until the late Maastrichtian, although most of these are in the form of teeth. By this time, the Mosasaurians had developed into the more common top-order carnivores among Mosasauridae, although Tylosaurus rex remains, for the time being at least, the largest known member of the group. Thanks for watching, everyone. The next episode will be covering the surprisingly mysterious evolution of hippos. But before I end this video, I'd like to go off script for a sec to reveal some good news. I think I've mentioned this on a few occasions already, but over the past 5 years I've been working through my early medieval history PhD, and my viva voce was scheduled for the 26th of May. Well, after having sat through the 3-hour Zoom call, the examiners were convinced that I really know my stuff, and passed the thesis with only a few minor corrections. I can't explain fully just how pleased and relieved I am that this long journey is finally coming to an end, and I can call myself a doctor for real now. Thanks to all of you for subscribing and enjoying my videos while I was undertaking this mammoth project. which helps to keep me going on a minimal grad student salary. Thanks for your support, and I'll see you again soon. Cheerio.